Late last week, malicious software has been taking computers hostage in an unprecedented worldwide outbreak, locking people out of their data and demanding hundreds of dollars to let them back in. Our Ian Shin now tells us how some experts claim to have found evidence linking the ransomware to North Korea.
Researchers are looking into alleged ties between North Korea and the ransomware dubbed WannaCry that's infected more than 300,000 computers in 150 countries since Friday. The U.S.-based software company Symantec and Kaspersky Lab based in Russia said that some code in an earlier version of the virus had also been found in programs used by the Lazarus Group, a hacking operation said by many experts to be run by North Korea. Both firms added that it was too early to say the regime was behind the cyber attack, but investigators in the affected countries are working to track down the culprits. The ransomware has disrupted operations at institutions and businesses across the globe, including car factories, hospitals, and transportation systems, by locking people out of their computers and threatening to delete all their data unless they hand over several $100s. The spread of the virus has slowed down since Monday. However, cybersecurity researchers warn of a fresh wave of attacks. Some 300 variants of the malicious software have been reported so far. They mostly infect older versions of Microsoft software that has not been recently updated.
As reports of thousands of computers infected by the WannaCry virus poured in from countries in Asia, some critics pointed the finger at the U.S. intelligence agencies. In a blog post, Microsoft CEO Brad Smith slammed the U.S. National Security Agency for allowing hackers to steal technology exploiting computer vulnerabilities later used by cybercriminals. He equaled the incident to having a Tomahawk missile stolen. Russia's President Vladimir Putin, on a visit to China, also criticized the U.S. intelligence agencies for losing control over their own creation.
We are fully aware that the genies, in particular those created by secret services, may harm their own authors and creators should they be let out of the bottle. And this issue needs to be urgently addressed on a political level to elaborate ways to curtail this.
Vladimir Putin said the country's computer infrastructure has not suffered serious damage. Yet Russian media reported that the Interior Ministry and the Investigative Committee were affected. Some Russian mobile companies and the Russian railroad servers and websites reportedly also experienced a short-term disruption. Government agencies acted quickly to isolate and block the virus. Local cybersecurity experts say this latest attack was just a start.
Given that the criminals have only raised some $40,000, which is very little for ransomware, I think it was just a test of the NSA tools stolen earlier this year and their effectiveness.
The Security Council has denounced North Korea's latest missile test and vowed to roll out additional sanctions on the regime. In a unanimous statement backed by China, the Council urged North Korea to show a sincere commitment to abandon its nuclear weapons.
The Russian President Vladimir Putin says that Moscow is opposed to any new country acquiring nuclear weapons. However, he says the world should talk to North Korea rather than threaten it.
The first thing I want to say, I want to confirm that we are categorically against the expansion of the club of nuclear powers, including with the Korean Peninsula and North Korea. Our position is well known to our international partners and North Korea in particular. We are against it. We consider it counterproductive, harmful and dangerous. We need to return to dialogue with North Korea and stop scaring it and find ways to resolve these problems peacefully. Is it possible? I think it is.
Putin blamed international challenges, including tensions in East Asia, on the violation of international law and aggression against sovereign states. He warned that such measures would lead to arms races. The Russian president also called for strengthening international guarantees under the UN Charter. Russia was a strong opponent to the U.S. invasions of Afghanistan and Iraq in 2001 and 2003, which brought about regime change in the two countries.
Disclosure of classified information is one of the sorest subjects for US President Donald Trump. Now he is being accused of giving too much away during last week's meeting with Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov. The Washington Post alleges Trump discussed a Daesh terror threat related to the use of laptops on planes. The newspaper says that information came from a US partner, which hadn't given permission for it to be used. But Trump's national security advisor, who was in the meeting, says nothing was amiss.
At no time were intelligence sources or methods discussed. and the president did not disclose any military operations that were not already publicly known.
The Washington Post says McMaster's statement doesn't deny that classified information was shared. The US president can legally declassify almost any information he wants. But US officials are reportedly worried that Trump's revelations could jeopardize the source and future intelligence relationships.
It's disturbing, and let's find out what the details are, whether it actually happened or not.
Democrat Senator Mark Warner tweeted, "If true, this is a slap in the face to the intel community. Risking sources and methods is inexcusable, particularly with the Russians." The story is a headache for the US administration for a number of reasons. Throughout the election campaign, Trump criticized how Hillary Clinton handled sensitive material in her emails, and allegations of close links to Russia have dogged Trump's team since he took office.
Germany could pull its troops now fighting ISIL out of Turkey's Incirlik military base. That's according to the German Chancellor Angela Merkel.
It is unfortunate, and we have made it clear via various channels. We will continue the dialogue, but at the same time, we will be looking for alternatives to Incirlik. One possible alternative, among others, is Jordan.
The Incirlik air base is located in the south of Turkey, close to the Syrian border. The facility is considered to be of great importance to the ongoing campaign against ISIL jihadists. It currently hosts troops and warplanes from a number of countries, including 250 German soldiers and around 2,000 US military personnel. Now, these are latest words from Merkel came as Turkey denied German MPs entry to the airbase. They had been hoping to visit the country's soldiers. It's just the latest in a series of unpleasant moments between those two countries. Diplomatic rift between the two leaders led to a number of awkward moments during their last one-on-one meeting.
Biz bunun karşısında durmak durumundayız.
The old adage goes, keep your friends close and your enemies closer. But in Turkey, it can be hard to gauge which is which. In the few weeks since the Turkish president won a historic referendum giving him executive powers, he has made official visits to Russia, India, and China. And despite anger at recent U.S. policies, Recep Tayyip Erdogan will now make his way stateside.
And Turkey's major priority in Syria currently is to prevent the emergence of a Kurdish region. So it's actually trying to use this special relationship with Russia as a leverage against the United States.
Turkey has long been one of the most vocal opponents against the Syrian president Bashar al-Assad since the civil war erupted in neighboring Syria 6 years ago. Teaming up with the U.S., who also oppose Assad, would seem likely, although Ankara appears to be playing its cards very close to its chest, speaking with Russia, Assad's main backer, about possible joint operations in the war-torn country.
Earlier this month, Turkey, Russia, and Iran agreed to work together as guarantors of safe zones in Syria, excluding any U.S. involvement.
Turkey's message there is actually to the United States. It wants to convince the United States to reconsider or change its stance about the Syrian Kurds, because for Turkey currently the main danger in Syria to its national security is actually coming from the Syrian Kurds, especially YPG.
Now, the US is accusing the Syrian government of killing thousands of prisoners and burning their bodies in a large crematorium outside Damascus. The State Department on Monday showed satellite photos of a large building near the Sadnaya military prison, saying it had been modified to support the crematorium. It added that the facility is being used to cover up to nearly 50 detainees being hanged on a daily basis at the prison complex. The top US diplomat for the Middle East said the Assad regime has sunk to a new level of depravity with the support of Russia and Iran. Syria has not responded to the claims, but it has previously denied any abuse in the jail.
Let's head to Nigeria now, where Boko Haram has released a new video threatening to bomb the capital, Abuja. Authorities say the footage is mere propaganda, but the militants have targeted Abuja in the past.
Video surfaced on Friday, almost a week after Boko Haram released 82 of the Chibok schoolgirls in a prisoner swap deal. It shows 5 men claiming to be Boko Haram commanders released in a swap deal, threatening more bomb attacks, and the target includes the seat of power here in Abuja. The men, dressed in military uniform and wielding assault rifles, also said there would be no further negotiations with government. One of the commanders, identified as Shuaibu Muni, is seen claiming more than 5 Boko Haram commanders were in the swap deal. It remains unclear where and when the video was shot. The military says the video is a mere propaganda by Boko Haram to gain relevance. Another video appeared later showing girls covered up in veils, claiming to be the Chibok girls who refused to be released last week. One girl holding a gun in the video identified herself as Maida Yakubu. She claimed she refused to be freed because life outside Boko Haram is for infidels. She urged others to join them in fighting for pure Islam. Boko Haram has carried several bombings here in Abuja, so this latest threat may be a real cause of concern among security agencies.
In the heart of the quiet British countryside, one of Britain's highest security prisons, HMP Frankland, houses the UK's most dangerous extremists. Since the recent UK terror attack carried out by Khalid Masood, a prison convert, the government has launched a crackdown following a review of extremism in prisons. The review found there was a risk of radicals using their time behind bars to recruit. This prison's to become the first in the UK to open a separation centre. Under the plans, the Ministry of Justice say 3 new separation units will be created, so-called jails within jails. These will hold up to 28 offenders who pose the greatest risk of influencing other prisoners. Once separated, prisoners will be reviewed every 3 months. It's clear from the recommendations for combating extremism in prisons that for these separation centres to be successful, they'll need to be skilled staff with specialist training. But all of this comes at a time when prisons have seen their budgets slashed and staff cut. And what's going to take place here at this prison is largely untried and untested. It's an experiment, and the outcome at this point is unknown. These latest plans are small scale, but the problem is a complex one. How to ensure those in UK prisons are being rehabilitated instead of radicalised.
It's May 15th today, which for the Palestinian people marks the Nakba Day of Catastrophe, when Israel was founded in 1948. Imprisoned terrorist Marwan Barghouti is calling on Palestinians to carry out acts of civil disobedience to escalate tensions with Israel. He's also urging demonstrations of solidarity with inmates following the hunger strike he declared on April 17th. Barghouti is serving 5 life terms for orchestrating the murders of Israelis. The terror leader claims he's still observing the fast despite the release of videos that show him eating. Meanwhile, PA negotiator Saeb Erekat says that if Israel ever truly wants peace, it has to recognize what a disaster its creation was and to apologize for it. Erekat's also calling on Britain to apologize for having denied what he says are the Palestinians' national rights and for issuing the 1917 Balfour Declaration advocating a Jewish homeland in Israel. U.S. President Donald Trump is set to arrive in Israel exactly 1 week from today. Ahead of the landmark visit, officials from both Egypt and Jordan say they're optimistic over the American leader's commitment to resolving the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. That's what's being heard from Amman after the Jordanian and Egyptian foreign ministers met with the chief Palestinian Authority negotiator to discuss the decades-long dispute. During a meeting with PA President Mahmoud Abbas earlier this month, Trump vowed to do whatever is necessary to broker peace with Israel. Although the American leader hasn't provided a specific plan to revive long-stalled negotiations, Israel's regional partners are pledging to do all that they can to help pave the path to peace.
We're committed to achieving that peace, and in that regard, we also discussed the outcome of the extremely positive and successful and productive talks the leaders had in Washington during their meetings with President Trump. We all value the obvious and solid commitment that the President had made to ensuring progress towards resolving the Palestinian-Israeli conflict. And as our leaders emphasized there, we are willing to do the heavy lifting. We are going to do whatever it takes to help push the process forward and to be there supporting the President and working with him.
Plans to expand an Israeli settlement near Jerusalem are moving along quickly just a week before U.S. President Donald Trump's visit to Israel. But the big question on everyone's minds is just how serious is Trump about moving the U.S. Embassy to Jerusalem? The settlement of Kochav Yaakov is just a few miles away from the Israeli capital, and the community's council is now looking for contractors to build more than 200 new apartments. This construction plan was approved by the government years ago, but the previous developer went bankrupt before construction was complete. Still, it certainly seems like an expression of confidence in the new U.S.-Israel relationship, as the U.S.-mandated settlement freeze that hung over most of Barack Obama's 2 terms is over. At the same time, the chief Palestinian negotiator Saeb Erekat is saying he hopes Israel will cease settlement construction during U.S.-led peace talks. This is a seeming reversal of the previous Palestinian precondition of no negotiations without a settlement freeze. And that's not the only big change on the horizon. It sounds like the long-promised move of the U.S. Embassy to Jerusalem might actually happen. Prime Minister Netanyahu says that such an act would advance the peace process by shattering the Palestinian fantasy that Jerusalem is not the capital of Palestine. But Secretary of State Rex Tillerson is implying that the Israeli government is actually ambivalent about such a move, a rumor that's been circulating for weeks. Under the Jerusalem Embassy Act of 1995, the U.S. government is legally required to move its Israeli embassy to Jerusalem, but the law has never been implemented until now.
A Mexican journalist gunned down in the lawless state of Sinaloa. Javier Valdez laying lifeless in the street in the capital after attackers opened fire on his car on Monday. He's the 5th reporter to have been killed in Mexico in recent months, as authorities struggle to contain the country's warring drug cartels. Award-winning Valdez was renowned for his coverage of organized crime. He also published a book about the dangers journalists face covering the rampant crime and corruption gripping Mexico. His death has shaken other journalists in the country, one of the most dangerous places in the world to do the job. Since the year 2000, more than 120 journalists have been killed. Most of the attacks on the media go unpunished.
2 transgender cadets set to graduate from military academies in the U.S. this month will not be allowed to serve in the military among its newest commissioned officers. The cadets, who hail from Air Force and Army academies, will graduate in May if they pass their final exams. However, the military branches will not let the cadets join their ranks following graduation, because the Pentagon has not yet established procedures for accepting transgender troops. Former Defense Secretary Ash Carter lifted the Pentagon's ban on transgender troops last year, allowing current military members to serve openly. But policy has not yet been set for accepting new transgender troops into the ranks. That policy is set to be developed later this year, leaving these 2 cadets in limbo. There are as many as 6,600 transgender troops in the active duty military force of about 1.3 million, according to estimates.
Some newly proposed bills in Texas could drastically alter LGBT couples' abilities to create families. One bill could make it legal to refuse adoptions for gay couples. Another could deny marriage licenses if it conflicts with the religious beliefs of the issuer, despite the Supreme Court's landmark decision 2 years ago which legalized it. And despite the backlash over North Carolina's infamous bathroom bill, there's even proposed legislation preventing transgenders from using the restroom of their choice. Supporters of the bill cite religious reasons, and with the bathroom bill, cite safety. But if the bathroom bill is passed, one estimate predicts a potential loss of $407 million from loss of business and tourism to the state. Gay rights activists have tallied 24 bills this season they say infringe on the rights of those that are LGBT, and that's the most of any state so far.
be America's most dedicated pizza delivery dude. Look at him trudging down the tracks, trying to locate the hungry passenger who ordered a pizza pie from a broken down train.
They were stuck on the train. I was like, wow, okay, this is a first.
Amtrak train number 161 from New York City to Washington, D.C. had stopped dead with a mechanical problem in Delaware. After 2 hours on the stalled train, a passenger called in an order to the nearby Dom's New York-style pizzeria in the town of Newport, Delaware. How did you hear about this delivery? What was told to you?
Well, the phone guy was like, hey, Jimbo, we have a delivery. Some guys are stuck on a train. Can you do that? I'm like, I got that.
Another passenger shot video as Jim Leary arrives with the pizzas. You had to walk down an embankment to get to the tracks.
Holding 2 pizzas, yes.
Holding 2 pizzas?
Whoa, yeah.
Then Jim has to find his customer.
All the people on the train are all screaming and hooting and hollering, we want pizza too!
How did you get the pizza to him, though? I mean, did he open a window? What? I don't understand.
They were hanging out the door. I mean, so I just pretty much just, here you go.
Jim's winning praise on social media. That was way above board, goes one comment. The passengers were transferred to a rescue train, but at least some of them weren't hungry, thanks to a very dedicated pizza delivery guy.
All in days work.